Chirwa. Vera is spelled V-E-R-A. Mlangazua is M-L-A-N-G-A-Z-U-A, and Chirwa is C-H-I-R-W-A. She was born on the 26th day of May in 1932. She's 91 years as we speak right now, and she is very much alive and kicking. My God. My brother, my sister, Vera Chirwa was born in Malawi. At the time, it was called Nyasaland. Now, did you know that Malawi used to be called Nyasaland? It was called Nyasaland. Nyasaland. N-Y-A-S-A-L-A-N-D. She was born in Nyasaland, today known as Malawi, in 1932, the 26th of May. Growing up, all she wanted to be was to take up the legal profession and be a lawyer. Why was he interested in becoming a lawyer? She realized that there was so much injustice in Malawi, at the time called Nyasaland, as the British colonialists took over the country and sentenced a lot of people to prison. Long sentences without any trial. The British were feared. One day she asked her father, "Father, how can we get justice for our people? Why is it that uncle went to jail and up till now he's there?" Father said, "Well, it's because the white people have more power than us, and they have taken over our land, and they are treating us badly, the British." Now the father continued talking as tears ran down his face. He didn't expect such a question from a 10-year-old. She asked again, "So how do we take back the power and run our own country and free my uncle?" The father smiled and said, "You can only take the power if you get educated the white man's way. Learn all his secrets through educating yourself his way. And then when you become a lawyer, you can decide who goes to jail and who gets out of jail." This she will remember all her life. When you become a lawyer, you get to decide who goes to jail and who gets out of jail. My God. She decided to be a lawyer. My brother, my sister, she went to school, made sure that she was able to study so hard, grabbed a law degree, my brother, my sister. And when she grabbed the law degree, she knew that it was time, oh my God, to serve her nation. Oh God, have mercy. My brother, my sister, hey! Now listen to this interesting thing. Born in 1932, she was able to grab her law degree, and then she went into full practice, my brother, my sister. Interestingly, she got married to a man who also was the first lawyer, male, of the same country, Malawi. This is the man. Oh my God. My brother, my sister, Chirwa, who we spoke about yesterday. Now, Chirwa was a freedom fighter. He was a very powerful lawyer. And you could tell that our heroine for today, Vera, was so much in love with the law profession. Anything law she would fall for. She fell for this lawyer, the very first lawyer of Malawi. My brother, my sister, listen to what happened next. In the early 50s, when our heroine was only in her 20s, she joined forces with Rose Chibambo. Now, Rose Lumatinda Chibambo was a prominent politician in the British protectorate of Nyasaland. In the years leading up to the independence, as the state of Malawi in 1964. And immediately after, in fact, she was even recognized on their 200 kwacha notes there in Malawi. You know, they spend the kwacha, we spend cedis. This is the beautiful woman known as Rosa Lumatinda Chibambo. What a powerful name. My brother, my sister, our heroine for today joined hands with this woman. Oh yes, she joined hands with Ros Chibambo to form the Nyasaland African Women's League in the early 50s. And then she also worked with the Nyasaland African Congress, founded by her own husband and the very powerful Hastings Kamuzu Banda. The Nyasaland African Congress. My brother, my sister, they were able to gain Nyasaland's separation from the unpopular Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. She became Nyasaland's first female lawyer and was a founding member of the Malawi Congress Party, the MCP. In 1959, the party that led the country to independence. It was founded 2 years after the independence of this great nation, today called Ghana. After Nyasaland gained self-governance in 1961, 2 years after the MCP, that's the Malawi Congress Party, was founded, she became extremely popular. And she stood on her 2 legs to dance all the nights of the independence of her nation. She had succeeded. In fact, she even told her family, today as it stands, I've accomplished all my dreams in life. If I die today, I die in happiness. Her father cried all night because this was the dream her daughter had, to be able to liberate her uncle who was in prison and to liberate all those people who were political prisoners, all because of the British in Nyasaland. My brother, my sister, they named it Malawi. That was how they called it. Malawi is officially the Republic of Malawi, formerly known as Nyasaland, as you were told, and is a landlocked country in southeastern Africa. It is bordered by Zambia to the west, Tanzania to the north and northeast, and Mozambique to the east. It's a landlocked nation. They don't know what is called the sea in Malawi. My brother, my sister, hey, she was in her 20s when the country became independent. She became a lawyer in her 20s. My brother, my sister, but the way the country was being run by Hastings Kamuzu Banda, she and her husband suspected that she was a poodle. In fact, he was a poodle, Kamuzu Banda. He was a puppet of the British. And therefore, they fell out with Kamuzu Banda. And Kamuzu Banda, realizing that these were the most powerful people aside him in Malawi, he started to watch them with eagle's eyes. Mr. and Mrs. Chirwa. And they were both lawyers, the first lawyers witnessed by Malawi. Now, after they fell out with Kamuzu Banda, Chirwa and her husband were declared enemies of the state. Can you believe this? Enemies of the state. And for that matter, anybody who would see them should gun them down, and the person will be rewarded. After all, these were just enemies of the state. My God, for fear for their lives, they ran into exile in Tanzania. And when they were in Tanzania, forced into exile, they started to teach law in the schools there in Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania. They lived in Tanzania, but they traveled to Zambia time after time. They even went to the Great Britain and the United States of America, my brother, my sister, all trying to negotiate for a better independence for their nation. On Christmas Eve in 1981, 20 years after Hastings Kamuzu Banda had become president, almost becoming president for life after 20 years in power, Vera and her husband, Chirwa, were kidnapped, abducted, and taken away, my brother, my sister, from the east of Zambia by Malawi security forces, taken back to Malawi to face charges of high treason. Hey, they were sent to a traditional court. Those courts were actually established by Chirwa, trying to give power to tradition and culture. They sentenced them to life imprisonment. And when they went in there, they were there for so many years. Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda was so happy. He wanted them to even be executed. My brother, my sister, they stayed in there for as long as Hastings Kamuzu Banda wanted them. For Hastings Kamuzu Banda, it was better to keep them in prison than to allow them to come out as enemies of the state. There was no evidence. The evidence was very bad, but they still kept them in the Zomba prisons. And Chirwa was not a stranger to the prisons. He had been there before independence. There were false testimonies, but brother, my sister, as time would have it, interesting things happened. Her husband died in jail. He was never allowed to see his wife. For 8 solid years, he remained in solitary prison, never seeing anybody. And look at the interesting thing they did. They fed him all his meals once a day. I'm going to explain to you. So they brought him breakfast, lunch, and supper at the same time, early in the morning when he was asleep. Around 4 a.m., they would push it into his cell room and then close that small hole. He would have to manage the breakfast, keep the lunch, and wait until supper before eating. And what did they feed him for breakfast, supper, and lunch? Is the Ghana version of the Zimbabwe cocoa. Hausa cocoa was what they gave to him. My brother, my sister, after 8 years, he saw the face of his wife for the first time. If he had known, he would look more at his wife and tell his wife everything. But all he said was that we shall be free one day, and Malawi would also be free. But he didn't live to see his freedom. He died in jail at the age of 73, but his wife continued to live on. Conditions in the female prison were very tough. Vera Chirwa was subjected to torture and other forms of brutality. She slept on the cement floor, refused to eat the vile food that her husband fed on, and died. The cocoa for breakfast, lunch, and supper. No sugar, no kose, no masa, just cocoa sakura. My God. She was denied visitors and letters from her husband and her family. She remained in prison on death row for 12 years. 4 years after her husband had died, she was still in jail, never allowed to come out and even mourn. And her state was so hopeless. She credits her Christian faith for enabling her, yes, enabling her to keep hope and faith. My brother, my sister, in 1990, Amnesty International launched an urgent action to release Autumn and Vera Chirwa, but it was too late. In autumn 1992, when a delegation of British legal experts was allowed to pay them a visit, The Chirwas were allowed to see each other for the first time in 8 years, as you were told, in 1992. 4 years later, in 1996. My brother, my sister, she was still in jail. Orton Chirwa saw his wife, and 3 weeks later, he died at the age of 73. His wife was never able to attend his funeral. Banda pardoned her for humanitarian reasons, and she was released on January 24, 1993, when the country was transitioning to a multi-party state following the end of Banda's rule. Hastings Kamuzu Banda. This is the woman right now. This is what she looks like. 91 years old. She was locked up in jail with her husband. Her husband died in jail after 8 years. She continued for 4 more years as a prisoner of conscience. In the year 2000, 24 years ago, she was made the special reporter on prison conditions in Africa for the African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights. She also founded the NGO Malawi Center for Advice, Research and Education on Rights, and heads that organization. She campaigned for an end to death penalty, and she continued her fight for human and political rights under the Bakili, Muluzi, and Bingu wa Mutaraki governments. She also works for Women's Voice, a gender rights organization, even at her age. My brother, my sister, she continues to actively be part of politics. She has had so many awards from around the world. Oh, yes. In fact, she had awards in South Africa from the University of Pretoria. And she even had an award, my brother, my sister, that shocked her. What was this award? The Vera Chirwa Human Rights Award is awarded by the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria. The Vera Chirwa Human Rights Awards. And a lot of you are familiar with that. A number of Ghanaians have won it in the past. In fact, in 2007, it was won by Nana Oyelita. And then all the way in 2019, the Vera Chirwa Human Rights Award was won by journalist Jojo Kwabena. And then in 2014, Miss Lida Hasila Liman also won it. My brother, my sister, today we have the privilege to talk about this great black woman. She's still alive. At 91, she's still alive, and she's still doing a lot for her country. She wrote a book, and it's an autobiography. If you haven't read it, please find it and read it. It's called Fearless Fighter. Even though she was locked up, refused sex for 8 solid years, and even when her husband died, she was still in jail for another 4 years. My brother, my sister, it is interesting what we are seeing right now. And here you can see the awards. My brother, my sister, yes, this is the Vera Chirwa Human Rights Awards. My brother, my sister, and awarded to some of our powerful journalists and some journalists around the world. Today we remember this great black woman. Today, my brother, my sister, there was a time she declared a candidacy. In 2004, my brother, my sister, to run the country. And that was in 2004. Chirwa declared her candidacy for a coalition party, focusing on continuing the fight for political rights on a larger scale. Yet, she was faced with a big backlash by the opposition, stating that she isn't an established politician or deeming her to be too independent. Listen to the reasons. You are not a politician, therefore we won't allow you to stand. You are too independent a woman to do that. In 2006, 2 years later, the Vera Chirwa Award was created by the Center for Human Rights of the University of Pretoria, South Africa. And you saw some recipients of the award, and some Ghanaians also received the award. This is Jojo Kwabena. Yes, multimedia. He picked up the award, the Vera Chirwa Human Rights Award. My brother, my sister, oh my God. Today we remember this black woman. She's still alive, and she is refusing to hook up with any other man after the death of her husband. Oh my God. We remember her husband who died. We remember her. And we remember her fight, which ended up in the death of her husband, Ortin Chirwa. Ortin Chirwa, Uniyaminko. 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 Ortin Chirwa. She was never allowed to mourn her husband, Ortin Chirwa. May his body, mind, and soul rest in perfect peace as we remember her today. My brother, my sister, today we've been talking about Vera Mlangazua Chirwa, the first female lawyer of Malawi. And in the burden of knowledge, I ask you, now that you know the story of Vera Mlangazua Chirwa, what would you do? Be an any ole mini oba fe yazunda kagane mezaka yini ye papango bokaya nfifia e nyanu kaina wo bana ehu ebe den lele ya njima singa be kunne lele ya njima singa beri. It's been the African History Club.